Good morning, everybody. This is a live extreme weather briefing as we have new tornado potential today with a new tornado watch that has been issued. And that tornado watch includes a large portion of central and southern Mississippi into central and southern Alabama as well. Here is that tornado watch. It includes the Jackson, Columbus areas, Meridian, up through Tuscaloosa and Birmingham here. And the environment is marginally supportive of tornadoes, 35 to 40 knot low-level jet. I was just breaking down some of the forecasts and current photographs across this region, and they definitely do support the potential for tornadoes, most definitely. And here we are tracking a supercell storm just to the southwest of the Starkville area. You can see it does have a general hook-like appendage on the backside. It does have a relatively long track mesocyclone too that we have been tracking since earlier, a little bit to the west of the Ackerman area. I do think that the tornado threat is quite low with this storm. It only has a severe thunderstorm warning right now, probably not even producing any hail, but the presence of this mesocyclone here could lead to some locally severe wind gusts up to in excess of 60 miles an hour. You can kind of see this little RFD pop right there as well. And this definitely looks like the inflow zone here to the west of Butte. So really associated with this RFD here, there could be some local straight line wind gusts that are in excess of 60 miles an hour there. But overall, this mesocyclone is not the strongest mesocyclone, and about what you'd expect within this environment that is marginally supportive of tornadoes. But enough to issue that tornado watch, and it really only takes one tornado to cause problems. And look at that, you can even see that hook-like appendage pivoting there around the southern side, and it is just to the north of Sturgis, just to the north of Butte, Bradley, Longview, Green Acres, Oakwood Estates. Keep an eye on this storm. It is severe. It does say hail could be in excess of an inch in diameter, but I have trouble believing that there is very large hail with this storm. That's your vertically integrated liquid. It does look like it had a decent little hail core there to the west of Ackerman, maybe spiked up in excess of an inch. And you can definitely see that Ville start to fall down. So that storm appears to be weakening as it's moving toward the Starkville area. Probably not even going to extend that warning. You can see though the flash flood warning just off to the north. I do think that today has more potential danger associated with flooding than anything, with these massive complexes of storms streaming over the same area. This one dumped 1 to 3 inches of rain, flash flooding happening just to the north. So I do think we're going to see a lot of flash flood warnings, probably more flash flood warnings than tornado warnings. We do have another tornado warning to the north of, or a severe thunderstorm warning, excuse me, to the north of Birmingham that I'm also tracking. And interesting, it says a tornado possible in the warning statement. Let's see what it looks like here. It's definitely for this little transient supercell structure that's near the Cleveland, Alabama area. And you can kind of pick it out. It's got a little bit of some convection back on the backside that could give it a little bit of a forward boost in its speed and also streamlines vorticity intake. Does have some decent inflow into it as well, the Cleveland area. This is where that circulation is located, just to the west of Cleveland. Kind of a broad mesocyclone. Maybe could trigger a tornado warning as it moves off to the east, but definitely a very broad circulation there. I don't anticipate a tornado warning with this, but a tornado could produce with that, as it does have a bit of a mesocyclone, kind of a transient supercell structure there, heading toward the Cleveland area. And you can definitely see that little supercell there. Look at it develop just ahead of that line, so almost like a mesoscale accident type of a deal. You kind of had this renegade go up just ahead of that line, and then the outflow from that line behind it hit it and triggered just a real quick transient supercell structure, but this thing is going to die out. That's not even a hook on the backside. That's more of outflow from this convective line interacting with this renegade storm, but enough to trigger that severe thunderstorm warning with that storm. And quite a messy appearance to this convection zooming out. across central Alabama. There was a severe thunderstorm warning earlier up in this higher terrain. The Smoky Mountain National Park had a severe thunderstorm warning as we had kind of a bow structure slam into the southern Appalachians there. May have brought some strong winds to the ridge tops up there in the southern Appalachians, including the Smoky Mountains. And later on this afternoon, we're going to have the explosive development of an MCS back here as capes are going to increase in this environment in excess of 3,000. So eventually this portion of the line back into central Louisiana, up into central southern Mississippi, this is going to develop into a massive MCS. It's going to be associated with flash flood warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, maybe an embedded tornado warning or two as that one develops. But that's going to be something to watch. If I were chasing this event, I'd probably park somewhere in the Jackson area. Head down to the Pig and Pint barbecue joint down there in Jackson and just wait for this portion of the line here to erupt into that 3,000 cape. Looks like the low-level winds will back just a little bit more, and I think that's going to be the best co-location of low-level shear and instability. I don't think that the threat of tornadoes is incredibly great. I think that the storm motions are going to be mostly just kind of parallel to this sagging boundary, and that's going to create a lot of flash flooding for this event here. Here is the video from yesterday. I got inside of this tornado here just to the south of Weston. There you can see that cone organizing just to my south. This was right as this storm merged with the left split. So there was a left split coming up from the south. And sometimes when these supercells merge with the left split, they'll go nuts. But a lot of times they'll weaken the storm. So that left split likely caused this tornado to be weaker than it would have been. If that left split wasn't there, this supercell would have tapped into that strengthening low-level jet and likely would have produced a strong tornado heading for the Anna area. You can see that debris and those rain curtains actually underneath that. A little bit of condensation underneath that bulb. And I can see the whole eastern side of the mesocyclone too, kind of wrapping around this feature. And then I tracked it off to the north. And then debris was coming down around me as well on Weston Road. There, just small debris. I knew it wasn't going to be a very strong tornado because of that left split interaction, even though the tornado cyclone was able to survive that left split. This is as I was going north on a Weston Road, and I looked up and I could see that bulb, that funnel. I chase largely based on wind direction in these situations. There you can see some debris, southeasterlies feeding into that circulation. Then it shifted back to westerlies with a little eddy along the leading edge of that RFD gust front. But then the winds increased to about 70 to 90 miles an hour out there. As I could tell by the tree motion, I could hear the roar of that tornado as well. Tucked in back here into the rain. I could hear debris being caused. It sounded like some roof damage or a barn that was getting hit. There you can see some of those trees behaving pretty violently in that wind. Debris out to the west. Leaves, trees. Oh, bigger debris. Bigger debris. It's happening. Power flash. I can see the funnel above me. Easterlies. It's happening. I can hear debris. It definitely is nothing more enjoyable in my life than to dig these tornadoes out of rain-wrapped supercells and circulations based on wind direction and superimposing knowledge of storm structure on what's happening. But the rain and the condensation definitely does make it a lot more difficult to dig these tornadoes out of these supercells. Got a little spooked there. I seem to get a little bit more spooked in my post-COVID era. But then it's off to the north. I think the power flash is going to be happening. There's the power flash. And I actually didn't see that in real time. I was watching the video and I'm like, I'll be damned. That's a power flash just to the north. So I am curious to see what that tornado is rated. The one from the day before that, west of Gina, Louisiana, was rated an EFU. So I spoke to the WCM at Shreveport. And he said that they can't justify doing a damage survey down there because there haven't been any reports of damage. But based on the drone video, you can see the suction spots beneath that. Was confirmed as a tornado. You can already start to see these surface winds begin to back down near the Jackson area into southern Mississippi. And you can see just a little bit of anticyclonic curvature to the low-level winds up into those severe thunderstorm warnings. Up along that convective line to the north of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. I think that the main tornado threat is going to be back further to the west. And pretty marginal low-level shear, though, throughout this area. About 100, maybe 100 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative shear. So definitely not an incredible environment for tornadoes. I think this is more of a flash flood situation, but look at that MCS evolve across southern Mississippi there. Fed by mid-70s dew points, a 35 to 40 knot low-level jet feeding into the south side of that line. And I was looking at a couple of these photographs. This is the 3-kilometer NAM. Look at that massive instability that builds back here across southern Mississippi as an elevated mix layer moves over top those mid-70s dew points. These holes in the Cape there, that's the development of a monster MCS that's going to move into this environment. And looking at a couple forecast soundings in here, they aren't bad for tornadoes. And the 3-kilometer NAM does have a more stout elevated mix layer at about 3 kilometers there. Quite a bit of Cape. Due southerly surface wind at 10 knots and then a 40 knot southwesterly wind just above the ground. And there's your photograph squeezing out. About 125 0 to 1 kilometer shear. About a 30 knot low level jet there. Surface wind due south at about 8 knots. We're talking about 25 to 30 knots 0 to 1 kilometer shear. And a lot of low level 3 kilometer Cape out there with that 79 over 80 over 75 type profile. Directional shear as well across southern Mississippi into the afternoon. In terms of the low-level jet. There you go, 40 knot low-level jet there. These events tend to happen this time of year. It's relatively late in the seasonal cycle to be chasing down here in the Mid-South, but anytime you bring April-style kinematics with 75 dew points out there, it can usually be a recipe for problems. And the instability and the shear and the kinematics decrease as you go off to the east. But there still could be some surface-based instability across upstate South Carolina there. It could be a concern. And still marginal 0 to 1 kilometer shear. You do get a couple spots approaching 200 there by 19Z, 19 into 20Z as this convective line sags off to the southeast. Could be a tornado or two within this environment squeezed out of this. There's a lot of moisture, low cloud bases, but it definitely is looking like more of a flash flood event, certainly. Let's see what some of the QPF is that's being pumped out by this 3 kilometer NAM. And we'll look at the HRRR QPF. And you can see some of the rain here on the order of 2 to 4 inches, even approaching a half a foot up here across Tuscaloosa, Birmingham areas. A lot more rain across southern Mississippi with that reinvigorated southern complex there. 5-6 inches of rain possible. Jackson to Meridian and off to the south, including the coastal zones there. Could get some flooding around Mobile too when that moves in overnight tonight. So this looks like more of a flash flood situation today, but still something that you got to watch. With that tornado watch issued, moderate tornado potential with that 40 knot low level jet. Big rainfall happening here. 3 kilometer NAM, HRRR. I do think that this complex that's going to be coming out of southern Mississippi is going to be the main event with this with today, and that's going to be mainly flooding out there. Let's take a look at the radar once again really quick before signing off from this morning weather briefing. That storm that was approaching Starkville, severe thunderstorm warning has been dropped. Just looks like a blob Heavy rain, probably not even any lightning with that. Our lone severe thunderstorm warning to the northeast of Birmingham, that's going to be allowed to expire for sure. To the east of Bluntsville, definitely got hit by that outflow back behind it, and it's losing its identity here. A little transient supercell storm triggering that severe thunderstorm warning, but this is definitely looking like a blob type of a situation here. Elevated mix layer is just not present here. Marginal bulk shear. But this environment is definitely starting to heat up and destabilize across southern Mississippi. Likely we'll see the explosive development of that MCS along this line, along this boundary, as you get a lot of destabilization happening to the east of it across southern Mississippi. So as I mentioned, if I were chasing today, and I'm actually in Dallas in Waxahachie, just north of where that tornado crossed 35E last night, and I talked to Connor McRory. He was actually chasing that storm and got surprised by it at the last second. Semi-trucks right in front of him lofted and flipped. Pretty severe damage as it crossed 35E there. He estimated he experienced winds of at least 120, maybe a little bit stronger at times. But he sounded a little bit spooked last night after that event. Long range looks quite active around May 8 through May 10, so I'm probably going to stay in Tornado Alley and wait for the peak season to arrive May 8 to May 10 before I head out to pick up Gizmo. I guess that complex of storms is already firing out here. Shreveport down into east central Texas. Heavy rain makers. And I still think that this area is going to be where that next MCS re-energizes as we go into the early afternoon. Could be some transient supercell structures in there as well with that 40-knot low-level jet. So thank you everybody for tuning in to my live weather report. I was live yesterday during that storm chase on the Oklahoma side, and then as I went down into DFW, I needed my other iPhone 12 to navigate, so then had to focus on my Facebook stream. But I do plan on getting another phone so I can do continuous live streaming to both YouTube and Facebook. Right now I just kind of bounce between the two. So thank you everybody for tuning in this morning. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. And I'm going to figure out my next steps. Kind of waiting for this May 8 through May 10 time period here. Got to eat a lot more fiber and do those types of things to try to recharge those mitochondria. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Never stop chasing.